What's up, guys? It's Eventon here, and I want to try something a little bit different. Not just showing you guys my face a bit more frequently. I've been told I have a great face for radio, but aside from that, I actually came across Eve Online tutorials, which I've actually been a long time subscriber of theirs. I remember watching some of their videos when I was first playing, like a year and a half ago or so, and I've learned a lot of great stuff. I even did this kind of stuff on another channel that I'm not willing to tell you guys about just yet because I haven't done content on there in a long period of time. But this is something I used to do. I used to actually go on the forums for the game that I used to play and just kind of react or give my take on some of the typical issues or just some of the topics that are being brought up in the community. So what I want to do here is I'm not sure if I'm going to do this as like a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing because honestly this content is really easy. I know some of you guys are really interested also in my opinions and my feedback on some of these topics that are being brought up in the forums, even though some of the topics can be really off tone, maybe a little bit degenerate, whatever you want to call it, just kind of joking around. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. I will put a link down in the description below because this is kind of where I just sparked the idea. Eve Online Tutorials has done a few of these where they look at a forum post and he gives us input and feedback. But we'll go ahead and just jump into it. So this first one, we're just on the general discussions for the Eve Online forums. I'm gonna look at the first one, Eve Classic. I have an idea of where this is going. I did take a peek at this one, to be honest, like a few days ago, but I didn't really look too much into it. So it's subscription only, based in the client locked in Trinity release. This is way before I started playing. I started playing in late 2019, something like that, maybe like mid 2019. That's when I started playing. Instead of work for Blizzard, why not CCP Trinity as a single classic engines? Obviously, people have already brought up concerns about how this wouldn't work because it's on a single server, and CCP has mentioned how it would be almost impossible to truly like recreate Eve or like a second Eve or something like that. Now, personally, sorry if I'm gonna be coughing because I've been drinking some stuff and it's just being weird with my throat. But with Eve, it would be kind of interesting. I would love to at least like maybe get a glimpse or play for a month of what Eve was like back in 2012, back in 2003, 2010, well, like, you know, whatever the time frame is. I would love to at least just get to experience it, but playing it long term or trying to like heavily invest in it, I think would be a complete headache. I brought up a lot of this stuff to even some of my veteran corp members in my corp, and a lot of them were just talking about all like the headaches, the nuances of moving each probe individually and ensuring your skill points or like your pod or something like that. You had to like ensure your pod or like your skill points, or else you would lose all of them. Ways you could like have multiple prop mods on a ship and you would go like super fast. Being able to queue up a bunch of cruise missiles or just missiles in general, and they would all like land at the same time. Like all this stuff that was incredibly and inherently unbalanced, but still a lot of fun. If CCP isn't thinking about doing an Eve Classic, which I think is fine, I think that would just be way too much of expenditure of like resources for CCP. But I would love to see them do this like an Abyssal Proving Grounds where you could play certain ships as they were back in 2005, 2011, you know, whatever it was, you know, before a pre-nerf or whatever, a big change or whatever happened. So it would just basically be kind of like time walking dungeons in World of Warcraft. I don't know if you guys have played World of Warcraft, but you could essentially play dungeons kind of as they were back then, but with like more updated like levels and like damage ratios and all that kind of stuff. So it would be cool to play like, hey, what were Drakes like a long time ago? What was this kind of ship like a long time ago? And being able to kind of relive some of those past experiences, and who knows, that could like inadvertently stimulate the economy in some weird ways. Like maybe some ships that would never get bought are getting bought up more. Now multiple prop mods are being bought up because now you can put 3 or 4 prop mods on a ship and fly around super fast. Like that'd be fun in a short-term arena style environment where it's not affecting the outside world too much and it's not affecting any major doctrines or metas or anything like that. So I think something like that could be fun if we're able to kind of relive sorry if I hit my mic, old experiences or old ships as they were back then. I think that would be pretty fun. Capital ships, I don't fly capital ships. I have very little to no information about it. Pilot helmets, what is this one talking about? Oh, this one I looked at earlier. I didn't really read it. May seem pretty useless to schedule wise. CCP never added cool sci-fi helmets in the game. I mean, these were cool armor pieces or fashion, blah, blah. I mean, don't the Trigladians wear helmets? Isn't she wearing a helmet right here? Now, I'm not really sure if they want to add helmets. I mean, I feel like unless you have the accessories or the gear to support it, it'd look kind of weird if you're wearing like civilian clothing or like Amarian clothing and then you just have like a random space helmet on. So I'm not sure how CCP would do that. I don't know. Cosmetic stuff, I mean, I'm in favor of just adding more cosmetic stuff. Like that's always cool, but it's not like a huge thing for me to you know focus on. Let's see. This one is talking about updates survey. I think a poll is way better and cleaner than digging through thousands of posts on a forum looking at rants on Reddit. There should be one after every update, maybe, better than watching people vote in their with their feet and reaction months later. World War B2. Okay, so essentially this guy is saying like there should be an update released shortly after an update is given to the public or to the game. At what point is the update released? Who knows? Like, is it within a month, a few months, 6 months later? I'm not sure, but I would agree. And I clicked on this before. I did look at this post prior, to be honest. And this part is pretty interesting. It says rate EVE Online fall 2021, and this is actually like the prime time when I was playing the most, to be honest. This is like when I was playing the most. It was like in 2020, 2021. It says, which region do you mostly do stuff in? High sec, low sec, null. Most recently wormhole space, but before, I mean, the last 11, 12 months, it's been in high sec. I'm just going to go through this because it doesn't seem that long. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because I think it's pretty, not all of the above. I think these kind of surveys are interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what's at the end of this. How long have you been playing EVE? I've been playing EVE personally for about 18 months now, maybe just shy of that. So I'm going to put 1 year. 5 years is, I'm still way off from 5 years. Taking over castles, vulnerability timer favors attackers. I don't remember this update or if this thing happening. I think I do, but I wasn't in a position to like bash structures or anything like that. So I'm just going to leave it as neutral. Didn't really affect me. Hypernet relay in-game lottery. I've actually made a video talking about how the Hypernet relay is fine as is. I'm going to put it as an 8. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not the best. There's definitely a lot of UI options as well as search options to make it infinitely easier to like find ships instead of like having to cycle through all these different things. It's a complete headache. But I think Hypernet relay is fine as is. I mean, some people feel lucky to win a ship or whatever it is. It's also really easy for people that have like officer modules or blueprint originals. Not everyone has 14 billion ISK on hand just to buy a blueprint original straight up, off contract. Hypernet relay is a really good way for everyone to pitch in, 100 million ISK, and now everyone has a fair shot. The guy gets what he wants. He sells his blueprint original, and everyone has a chance to win. Resource distribution. It says removal of 0.0 belts. Not too sure about the 0.0 belts, but if it's just talking about the whole resource distribution and scarcity change, like that thing just in general, not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I like the idea of like redistributing minerals and things like that, but I think they could have gone about it like in a much better way. I don't want to get too into it just because I want to focus on other topics other than just doing jump filaments. I think the Winter Nexus event, they definitely need to do more jump filament stuff relating to like events, because like the Winter Nexus was awesome. There's a lot of different systems. You can instantly jump into the content unlike other ones, because like the Gala event and some other ones where it's like you would take 10, 15, 20, 25 jumps to maybe see a couple sites that you're able to do, or if they weren't getting like ninja looted or getting trolled or whatever it was. But at least with the Winter Nexus event, I seem to enjoy a lot. I mean, jump filaments, now we're talking about the nullsec ones, which are fine, but then we're also talking about the Pochfen ones, which are okay going in, but I think going out, it's a little bit too easy to have super easy access to high sec no matter where you are within like 15 minutes. So I'm going to put it as a 6. I think it's good, but it definitely some changes need to be made. Frigate Escape Bay, I haven't used it that much, to be honest. I think it's a cool idea, but I think it's pretty niche. Maybe, I mean, other than now, I mean, I'm in wormholes now, and being able to protect your pod in a way is really, really important. But outside of that, I mean, being like a high sec player for a long time, it didn't really affect me that much. So I'm just going to put that as a 5. Surgical Strike nerf. This is also an interesting one. I think this affected PvE and PvP players very differently. I was just doing strictly nothing but PvE when the Surgical Strike happened, so I didn't really have much experience saying, oh, these line of ships or armor ships are really OP because the resists are super high. I have no idea. Surgical Strike in general, from what I've gotten in general, has been kind of negative for the most part. I've talked to a lot of the veterans, and it just seems weird that they wanted brawling ships to do well in close range, but they also nerfed the resist, so now they're also weaker at long range because it's going to take them longer to approach or at least get on top of them. It just seems a bit strange that they wanted close range ships to do better, but they also nerfed the resist, making them more vulnerable if they're not already on top of their target. So on this one, it's not like I hate it. I feel like out of 3, you're saying it's not good, and then like 2 and 1 is just like abysmal. Like, were they even thinking when they were trying to release this? But I think a 3 says it's okay enough, but there's room for improvement. Capital changes, again, I'm not really too familiar with the capital stuff. Surgical Strike T2 ammo buff. I mean, I think that's fine. in some ways, I know the Surgical Strike update in a lot of ways kind of buffed ganking. You know, honestly, the T2 catalysts are, I mean, they're not expensive, but they are like 2 to 3 times more expensive than like the T1 versions. So T2 ammo buff, I think that's fine. Like I said, at the time when all this was released, I was just doing PvE and not much else. Triglavian Invasion Chapter 3 Pochven. That is a 3 for me. They could have done a much better job of giving even Edencom more stuff. Pochven just being completely locking people out completely of gates if they don't have high enough standing. And it's not like the standing was like really high. Even at 1.0, that would take you dozens and dozens and dozens of hours to level it up. If you weren't strictly sighting with the trigs and just shooting Edencom incessantly, basically outside of that, it would just take you eternity to level up those standings, which is why my standings are at like 0.3, and they have not gone any higher or lower since then. New Edencom ships, I think they're all right. There definitely needs to be more to it than that. I'm still upset that CCP has still not added a remote repping battleship for shields yet. It seems like armor-based ships are getting a lot of love with like the Triglavian line of ships and the Nestor that the Sisters of Eve have. All the shield lots you have are the Basilisk, and I forgot what the other one, I think the Scythe or whatever it is, like the upgraded version of the Scythe. But that's really it for shield logi. Like there's no bigger ships that have bonuses to shield logi other than those two. But the Triglavians are all armor, and the Edencom, I'm sorry, not Edencom, but the Sisters of Eve do armor too. So Forsaken Fortress, Abandoned Structures, drop stuff. God, this one is so, gosh, I keep hitting my mic on accident, sorry. This one is so weird to me. I had a lot of fun ninja looting these abandoned structures, but for people that were like taking a long break from the game or that were deployed for military or all kinds of stuff, I know there's a lot of people getting upset with that, but there was a ton of structures. I'm seeing way less structures in HiSec now than there was before. Like you'd go through a system and there would be like 27 structures, and now it's, you know, you go through some areas and now there's like 3, 4, 5 maybe, stuff like that. So I definitely think it cleaned up HiSec, but in general, I don't have too strong of an opinion. That's kind of the thing that it's like, I'm so new to the game, I don't know what it was like to like not have player-owned structures for a long period of time, and then like just having POS basically, and then now having citadels being introduced, and then now having them getting taken away in a strange way. So I'm gonna leave this as a 5. I'm playing middle of the road on this. Cheeto Trade Hub visual update, that's a 9. Actually, I'm gonna put that as a 10. Like that's the kind of stuff like I want CCP to do. Like Cheetah Trade Hub was like not updated or changed for like the longest time. I really want CCP to kind of go back into old content and fix some of the stuff that needs to be updated. I think it's still weird that Cheetah Trade Hub still doesn't have, I don't think it still has a clone bay. I know you can install a clone there, or you can have it as your home station, but I think it still doesn't have a clone bay. I'm not 100% sure on that. But not just like I want visual updates to happen, like I just want just the habit of going back through old content and just like modernizing it and making it playable. I know the visual update's a bit different, but I'm talking like mission, like level 4 missions, things like that. Stuff hasn't been touched in like 10 plus years. Like they should get touched upon, in my opinion. Command ship rework. I'm not familiar with that at all, so I'm just gonna leave that in the middle. Or I wonder if I could just leave it blank. I think I can just leave it blank. At least I hope I can. Vessel Proving Grounds instance PvP. I think that's good. I haven't really participated in it that much, but I definitely think there should be an area for instance PvP that people don't have to go out and basically have to take a nullsec filament, fly around for 45-50 minutes and maybe look for a fight. And usually they're getting outnumbered, outgunned, you know, in a blingy capsule, all that stuff. So it's like, I do think that there should be some sort of instance where there is balanced PvP gameplay in EVE Online. Quantum Core's additional structure item, I think that's fine. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, even then, like they weren't that expensive. I think some of the cores for some of the small structures were like $1 bill, maybe $2 bill. And at that point, like if you can't afford that, then you should not be building a structure, in my opinion. Depths of the Abyss tier 0 through tier 6. I think all that content is great. Some people were, I'll put it at an 8. Some people were kind of on the fence about, you know, dealing with the disconnects ever since they switched it from, instead of it just being Triglavians, and they switched it to like all the pirate ship factions for some reason. That really threw a lot of people off and made a lot of old fits obsolete, and people were still losing a shit ton of ships because they were using fits from the old Abyss and not the new Abyss. Some of the rooms just feel like they're incredibly hard to do, or that you're just going to be, because I've seen a lot of fits that are saying this fit will, or this ship will do fine, except for this room, you just die, you just deal with it, and you just buy another ship. You just hope you just don't get lucky. And I think that's fair. I think some of the rooms should be a tank or like a DPS check for your fit, so that way it's not very homogenized. But at the same time, I think there could be a little bit more balance when it comes to the Abyss stuff. Howling interdictors. I wasn't really here for that. I'm gonna go a little bit faster now because I realize I've been on this topic for a while. Dynamic bounty system. I don't know, not really in nullsec that much, like doing bounties or doing any kind of writing like that. So I'm kind of in the middle of the road for that. ESS change. I think I like that. I don't mind the. I think some people really enjoy it. I think there still needs to be a bit more of reason to go do it. But other than that, I think it's fine as is. Like, I think this is the kind of more out of the box thinking that I want to encourage from CCP. So I'm putting that pretty high, even though there are some things that could make it a bit more appealing for both the ratters and the people that are looking to steal. Bastions of War, Marauder, DPS buff. That's great. I don't fly a Marauder, but I love seeing Marauders and wormhole space, and then we have to like gather the guys together, and it becomes this whole operation, right? And it really becomes a presence on the field, because it sounds like before, like why fly a Marauder when you can just fly the pirate battleship, which is just going to just do just as much, if not more, DPS with more flexibility than the Marauder, and you don't have to take 60 seconds to siege up and all that stuff. So I think the Marauder buff is great. I think they definitely should look at ships that are not being utilized and finding a way to buff them, or at least give them something to make them stand out. Fleet formations, don't really care too much about that. It seems like that's more of like a fleet comp thing, even though some of the formations can be cool, and being able to customize your own are cool. Expert systems, temporary skills, I'm putting that as a 3. Actually, I'm putting that as a 2. They could have done them way better. Okay. See, it's so open-ended like this. I'm going to put it as a 3. Expert systems, initially, when they were trying to get people like mining barges and the exploration ones, I don't know why they had the exploration one for all 4 empires instead of just making it one exploration thing and letting that person determine what kind of empire frigate that they want to fly for exploration. Don't know why, but I do love how they're implementing it in a lot of the events, and basically giving people interceptors for the racing one. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head, but like just giving people the accessibility to fly ships temporarily during an event is great. Now, I would love to see that expert system actually last the whole event, because some of the events last a week long, but the expert system only lasts 4 days, 3 days, and it's like, why do that? I'm not sure if they're doing that to kind of give that FOMO feel of fear of missing out, of like, all right, I skilled it up, that was a lot of fun for 3 days, now I can't fly, but I want to still do the event. Maybe I'll buy skill injectors. I have no idea. Maybe that's the reason, but I would like to see them at least like have the expert system last the entire event. Wow, this survey. Okay, we're getting towards the very end. Industry changes, new BPOs, more capital BPC changes. I think that's fine. I definitely think making capital ships much more of a pain in the ass to start building is fine. I don't fly capital ships. They definitely seem, I think, just generally in the community, people being able to stockpile capital ships and just how easy it is to make them has been a big issue at EVE Online. So I think making it harder to build them in the future, I think, is fine. Maybe it'll encourage more subcap fights going forward. Nullification changes. So I would say yes for all the hauling ships. I think it's definitely CCP's idea of decentralizing people out of like high sec and being like, hey, I can make a lot of profit if I trade in low sec and this. And so that way, as people are spending more time and trading and doing things outside of high sec or outside of like low sec as well, and going into null and things like that. Yeah, I like the nullification changes. I know the interceptor pilots aren't too very happy about it, but I think all the other ships that were affected or that were given nullification options, I think it's great. So I'm going to rate it a bit higher. I know maybe some interdictor pilots might put it at 3, 4, 5, maybe even lower, but I'm putting it at 6 just because the haulers, I used to enjoy hauling. I don't do it as much anymore, but I think it's a good option. Warp core stab changes. This is another one too, where it feels like it's just the nullification change as well as the warp core. Actually, nullification I'm going to put at a 5. I like how they open it up to more ships, but then again, I do remember that there was like the scan res bonus being hardened. Like that's making it even harder for interceptor pilots. And like if you have a nullification and a warp core stab, like your scan resolution and like the number of drones you can use is basically 0 at that point. And some of these seem like really, especially the warp core stab, seems like a weird indirect nerf to the Ishtar, but it's also affecting every ship that ever wants to use a warp core stab. So I think that's a bit strange. I think the change is fine. I'm still kind of on the fence about it. It does suck that you can't fit more than a couple, or that it doesn't at least have a warp core strength of 2, because now anyone with the faction scram could just lock you down. There's literally nothing you can do unless you're flying a deep space transporter or Venture, since those are like the only ships that have like a base level of stability. So kind of middle of the road on it. I don't have a strong that's the thing with all these changes. Like there's goods and bads about both sides. It just depends on like what your gameplay experience is, right? Enter the Portal, Black Ops, Edencom buffs. I think it's fine. I think just encouraging, this is what I mean, like going back into ships, finding out that Black Ops and Marauders are just not being used. They're either too expensive or there's other ships that just do it better. You know, give them a buff. I think CCP should get more in the habit of like every year or every 6 months looking at a line of ships and then just giving them a buff, or just giving them some sort of change that's going to increase their level of viability and playability. How do you feel about increasing the number of login campaigns, specials, limited time offers, dailies? Was cool at the start, but not anymore. Don't really care. It's terrible. I like it. I'm like in between here. I think it's great. I definitely think giving new bros the availability to have like more access to SP and all that stuff. Even though I do like SP farming, I have some alts that do skill point extracting, and I think that the login campaigns and like specials and the SP rewards every month and like every event, people get anywhere between 20 to like 90,000 SP every month or every like event. Is kind of like eating into my profit, but I think it's good for the newer players. Like anyone below like 50 million SP, I think that's like great stuff for. What do you think CCP should focus on? Rebalancing, updating, fixing old content, or adding new content? I would like to see them at least like fix old stuff before they add new content. I talked to this before with some of my court mates in the past, and a lot of them said, I was like, oh, if you want to have them add new stuff to the game or like a new fleet of line of ships or whatever it is, what would you do? A lot of them said like, I want them to fix like Edencom ships first. I want them to fix this line of ships first. I want them to rebalance that. Like, it seems like a lot of people want like fixing and updatings and things people have been asking for a long period of time. Like, we want that stuff fixed first before we keep adding on new stuff, because that's how we get Edencom, where it's like now you're able to like zap your own ships. You're getting, you know, concorded, like all the early issues with like the Edencom ships and like the arcing electricity like damage thing with the Vorton projectors was just like really odd. And it's like, look, let's fix all that stuff first before we start adding new things, ideally. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit here and see what it says. Your response has been recorded. Cool. And I've been talking for over 20 minutes. Holy crap. I did not know I could just rant and rant and rant. But hopefully you guys are at least like enjoying my shitty opinions on some of these things. Does Eve have an overfishing problem? I'm going to do this one, and then I'm probably going to call it next time. I mean, that one was kind of unique because I had a survey, and I like filling out surveys and just giving feedback where I can about the game, and or just about like the player base in general. Let's go all the way to the top, please. All right, this one's kind of a long one. Okay, no, this is actually one I read. This is, yeah, I've actually read this one last week. Essentially, there's just an overfishing problem where there's just like too many people ganking and gate camping and things like that, and not enough people actually going out and fishing, which I don't think is the case in high sec. There's tons of people still flying around in orcas and big blinging ships and things like that. So there's plenty of targets. But when it comes to like low sec or null sec, there's definitely like, I can't tell you how many times I go out into low sec just trying to find something to kill. Even in factional warfare, people flying like unfitted frigates, just chilling out in the plex, like no one looking for a fight. And the only time you do get a fight is when you're outnumbered or upshipped. Gosh, I fitted out about 6 MOAs, and like my first 3 died. Like one died to just being an upshipped curse. The other 2 died from gate camps, where I was like, oh, there's some kills in the system. I'm gonna head over there, just getting gate camped. And so it's like I still have yet, after 3 or 4 deaths in my MOA, just the shitty MOA fit that I put together. I would like to at least see it get in somewhat of a fair fight at some point, just to see how it stacks up. At least a 2v1, not a 4v1 or just getting incredibly upshipped. But I mean, that's just the world of Eve. That's the best and the worst part about Eve, is that it's open world. The PvP fights are not made to be fair. That's just how the world is. There is strength in numbers, or at least strength in having a better ship as well. So, yeah, so not too much of an opinion on this. Like overfishing, I do think there's an overfishing problem, and it does seem like a lot of the vets or gankers tend to prey on the new players. You know, they get ganked once and they either quit the game because of it, not because of that. Usually I think when players quit, it's because of the weeks or months of frustration of like trying to figure out the game, and then finally after the second or third gank, they're just like, all right, screw this, or gate camp, whatever it is. Like, all right, screw it, I'm just giving up. I'm just getting incessantly punished and I'm not learning anything. Or that person will learn and then they stop going back to that spot. And now those people that are gate camping saying, hey, why is no one showing up? It's like, well, it's because you killed every single person that went through there. Like, they're either going to quit or they're going to learn and not come back. So you basically get a once over on everyone, but then that's it. And then you kind of run out of targets, right? So that's pretty much it. We only looked at 3 posts, but that survey one I think was pretty interesting, and it was a kind of a nice reflection back on like all of 2020 and 2021 over the last like year and a half or so, which is when I've been playing the most. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys take care and you fly safe.